Hi, my name is Monique Gaudet, and my evidence-based program is on graduated driver licensing. Graduated driver licensing programs grant young drivers full driver's license privileges using a phased approach. These programs are intended to reduce the total number of motor vehicle crashes on the road and reduce the amount of fatal car crashes among teens. Graduated driver licensing programs are also referred to as GDL laws. Most states have some form of GDL laws in place. The target population for this evidence-based program is teen drivers aged 16 through 19. This population was selected because, according to the Centers for Disease Control, in 2010, traffic crashes were the leading cause of death among teenagers in the United States, accounting for 27% of all deaths among 16 to 19-year-olds. The goal of this evidence-based program is to reduce vehicle accidents among the teen driving population. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, from 2008 to 2009, among 16-year-old drivers, the fatal crash rate per miles driven was approximately 6 times that for drivers aged 30 to 54. Other studies have shown that the crash rate among young teens is so high primarily due to inexperience and risky driving behaviors. The purpose and key question for this evidence-based program is whether introducing graduated driver licensing programs has had a positive impact on reducing the totals of motor vehicle crashes, thereby statistically improving the overall health of the general public. Many factors shape health, and social factors surrounding the target population impact the effectiveness of the program. Positive social support from family or friends plays an important role in one's ability to make healthier choices and to attain better health, as does physical environment, economic environment, health behaviors, and genetics. All of these factors play a role in the progress towards public health goal of motor vehicle injury prevention. Public health policy also affects health through legislation. The health of a large number of people is improved by reducing or eliminating unhealthy conditions, or by promoting activities that support individual and community health efforts. The graduated driver licensing program is of utmost importance to the community. By imposing restrictions on teen driving, the number of traffic crashes has been reduced, and by extension, the general public has now had a safer experience on the roads, statistically speaking. The target population for this evidence-based program is clearly teens, but it's also parents of teens. The Massachusetts GDL program incorporated different perspectives into its development by focusing legislation on both teen drivers and their parents. By mandating a parental education program, it shifted some of the focus on the parents in order to raise their awareness level of the risks of teen driving. Parents may not be fully informed about the risks of how to best prepare their teen to become a safe driver, but through education, they will be better equipped to help their teen make healthy decisions. The program developers ensured that the program appealed to diverse perspectives by using their knowledge of psychosocial behavior and leveraging that insight to influence and empower a larger population to make healthy decisions. The Graduated Driver Licensing Program has addressed the public health priorities of the community on a policy level, enacting state-level legislation. The Massachusetts Graduated Driver Licensing Law was enacted in 2007 and required teen driver education and training, increased fines for nighttime driving violations, increased the required number of hours of supervised driving, banned the use of mobile phones, and added a 2-hour driver education course for parents, and increased penalties for moving violations. The new laws transformed limited driving privileges into a new group norm. The program leveraged the health belief model that new behaviors are consistent with group norms, and since everyone else had to follow the same rules, it allowed new drivers to ease into the transition more slowly, assuming the full responsibilities of a fully licensed driver. According to Schneider, governments are the entities responsible for organizing community efforts that are necessary for the protection of public health. In this case, it's the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, the NHTSA, that was a force behind the implementation of graduated driving laws. Key players in this program are state lawmakers and lobbyists advocating for safe driving. External to the government, NGOs, or non-governmental organizations, surely also played a role, particularly through awareness campaigns and lobbying. Parents of teens were also most likely involved as well, according to Schneider, because recently there has been increasing community involvement in the planning of public health initiatives. Each of the stakeholders has had a specific role in moving the GDL program forward. Initially, graduated driver licensing programs were identified, studied, implemented by the governments on a state level. Currently, the programs are being critically evaluated for evaluation to the national level by researchers like Mello et al. In order to gauge the potential success of expanding the program nationally. The non-governmental lobbying organizations advocating driver safety and parents of teens also undoubtedly had a role in the implementation of the laws by exerting political pressure to follow through with the legislation. For a new public health effort to be successful and widely adopted by the public, there must be a high level of coordination and understanding between the key players. So in addition, lawmakers need to understand what's socially acceptable in the eyes of the public. Otherwise, laws won't be readily obeyed. According to Mello et al., examples that currently fail this test include proposals for restricting consumer advertising and many recent gun control laws. Safe driving advocates, parents of teens, and lawmakers all had to coordinate to align expectations with the goal of making our roadways safer. When you define external stakeholders as the individuals or groups outside of a program who can affect or be affected by the program, it could be argued that the external stakeholders actually wield the most influence on long-term success of a program, because they'll often be the very people impacted by the legislation. In Massachusetts, the GDL program, external stakeholders are the law enforcement officers required to uphold the law, parents of teen drivers who need to be aware of the law in order to enforce it with their teen, and the teen drivers themselves who are required to know and follow the laws. Once the GDL law was enacted, each community used its own law enforcement agencies to implement it. Part of the implementation of a successful law is raising public knowledge about the law. There had to have been an awareness campaign around the new legislation so people could begin to comply. Public health officials in each community were most likely consulted to help determine how to handle implementation in their community. Local public health officials often function as liaisons between community leaders, local officials, and state officials. Funding for the GDL program most likely came from the taxpayers. Another likely potential source of funding would be federal grants, which are also available often for large-scale public health initiatives to get them off the ground and give them that essential initial boost. If this were to be my intervention and tax money was either not available or denied to me, I would appeal to a less likely source of funding for a law enforcement initiative. I would apply for grants from a philanthropic organization in my local area and hope that their vision for how they're choosing to appropriate their funds aligns with my vision of making our roads a safer place to drive. Regarding the ethical concerns in the development or delivery of the graduated driver licensing program, there are a few factors to consider. Morally, some people view that their personal freedoms are compromised by the restriction of their driving rights. As a primarily safety-based issue, the religious aspect doesn't really come into equation here, as it may with other public health programs that deal with more intimate personal issues. Potential opponents of the program would include small government advocates who are anti-big government and may not want to pay for increased law enforcement, and also libertarians with their live and let live philosophy that are reluctant to restrict individual freedoms and liberties at all. One social factor that contributed to the need for this graduated driving program is the unacceptability of accidental and preventable teenage death. When young people die, it's a tragedy. And one study found that teen drivers were involved in more crashes per mile than driving people of any other age group. Clearly, teens were responsible for more than their share of accidental crashes, so it was seen that there was room for more improvement there, not only for teens, but for the benefit of the general population. The prevailing wisdom among most public health advocates is that death and disability are collective problems, and collective action is required in order to promote common welfare. Economically speaking, it is in the insurance company's best interest to pay as few insurance claims as possible, of course. So if teens were disproportionately responsible for crashes, insurance companies saw that stepping into the political arena and lobbying to tighten up on laws around teen driving could be one way to lower the incidence of claims submitted. Paying for the health care of critically injured victims of crashes is expensive. Increased crashes mean increased use of insurance benefits, which in turn means increased payouts from the insurance companies, which clearly has a big economic impact. Better drivers result in fewer crashes and lower health care costs in the long run. As we learned in the lecture, public health professionals seek balance between individual rights or preferences, social norms, equality, objectivity, and obligation to protect population health. Public health professionals needed to be sensitive to their target population's needs, but in this case, officials had a strong argument to get parents on board with protecting their child by enforcing these graduated driver licensing laws in their own households. You could say that public health advocates actually had it easy, as increased driver safety among adolescents is something that most people are in favor of implementing and enforcing. As public health practitioners attempting to get community buy-in through marketing, we would need to do some market research first and gain some real-life insight as to what types of messaging would appeal to our target audience, parents of teens. As Schneider mentions in Introduction to Public Health, Chapter 14, health is strongly affected by behavior, so it's vitally important for public health advocates to understand what motivates people to behave in certain ways, whether in a healthy or unhealthy direction. So once we have a grasp on how to meaningfully connect with the parents, we can go about developing our marketing plan. A great deal of detail does depend on budget and staffing, so for this instance today, we're going to plan for a local campaign of moderate proportions and then scale out from there. My first recommendation would be to start with a website and drive your traffic there. Your website can be static, like a glorified brochure, or you can if you have some budget to play with, it can have more sophisticated features that make it more valuable to your target audience. The website could have facts about graduated driver licensing, how it works, tools to help parents help their teen become a better driver, and resources on how to talk to your teen. In some cases, a website already exists that accomplishes your goal, so maybe then you partner with the developers of that website and help them enhance their site by building it out with even more robust features, such as maybe an interactive quiz on driving risk levels, or maybe a forum where parents can interact with each other and answer questions and support one another. In her book, Introduction to Public Health, Schneider notes that social support has been found to have a positive effect on healthy decision-making. So, as another facet of the program, I would advise setting up an online tool to connect parents of teens with each other. This could be a part of your website, or even for a no-cost option, you could encourage the use of existing websites like meetup.com for participants to form their own local groups. In my experience, I found that parents of kids with new driving permits are not given any sort of overview of the law, and are not advised as to how to help their teen become a good driver. In Maine, each driver needs to go through driver education, so I believe right there that exists an opportunity for this program to partner with private driver education schools to provide parents with printed booklets of information on the particular laws and the rules of in their state, so they don't have to take the initiative to look up the law on their own. And maybe integrated into the printed booklet could be an example of a written agreement that's signed by both the parent and the teen that outlaws the rules of the household and consequences if the rules are not obeyed. If we had a large budget for this program, we could then go further and splash out with a large targeted mass media campaign that integrates TV, radio, social media, email marketing, and digital advertising